Join David T. Plante, artist and author, as he reviews great illustrators, engaging books, and self-publishing tips on the artist and the author.
Hey everyone, and welcome to The Artist and the Author. I'm David Plante, and I've got a great show for you this evening. We have an illustrator who is fantastic. He is from the 1700s. He's from England. He is best known for his satirical work, but he was also a great oil painter. Then on Name That Book, I have got a book you don't want to miss. If you are a sci-fi or fantasy lover, this is almost prerequisite reading. Then I've got a couple of great tips for you on self-publishing. But before we hop in, let's take a quick look at some of our products. Okay, let's take a look at our products of the day. I'm doing our basics, our pencils, our pens, and paper. For our pencils, I recommend the Marquardt set. It has got your hard leads up to your soft leads. For our pens, I'm recommending the Micron pens. These are my personal favorite. This is a great set. It's got your fine tips all the way up to a larger tip size. Then for your paper, you can't go wrong with a Strathmore paper. This paper here is great for pencils, color pencils, pen, and pastels. I've got plenty more products on my website, so go check it out. You're going to find lots of products that you might be interested in. So now, let's head on back to our show. All right, let's take a look at our illustrator of the day. He is a fantastic illustrator. His work has extreme detail. It is beautiful line work. It has, the composition is fantastic. And the neat thing about it is all his illustrations told a story of the day. So this is William Hogarth. He's from London. He was born in 1697 and passed away in 1764. And he spent his whole life in London, England. Here you see that he was actually a very good oil painter as well. This is a self-portrait that he did. So we're going to dive into one particular work that he did, and he was best known for his series of plates that would tell a story. And this story we're going to go over, it tells a story of two young men who start off equal, and as they go through their lives, one is industrious and one is not so industrious, and it shows the contrast on how their lives turn out. So on the first slide, this slide is called The Prentice at Their Looms. Now first off, you're going to look at this and you just look at the detail on this drawing. It is fantastic. I love this kind of work. There's so much detail, the composition, the framing around it. The whole thing is just so well put together, and it tells a story just by looking at it. So you see in the left side, you've got the one young man whose name is Tom Idle, pretty much sleeping at the loom and being lazy and doing nothing. Then you've got the other young man back in the back there. His name is Francis Goodchild, and he is working industriously at trying to learn to trade and get the work done. And you see the master of the business looking in on both of them and kind of, taking note on what kind of activity they're doing. So in the next slide, and again, the composition and the line work is just phenomenal with his work. And you got to remember that these were actually made with plates, so they were etched. And in this particular set of plates, he didn't do what he typically did, which was paint an oil painting first and then convert it into a plate. He actually created the plate from the start. And the whole concept was he wanted to produce a set of plates that were cheap enough for the common folks to purchase them so that he could get his message out. But if you look at this composition, you've got all this activity in the foreground, and the depth of it, it just pulls you in, and you can just see the grandness of the church behind them. So what you have here is you have Francis Goodchild in the front, and he is actually with his master's daughter at church, and they are up there singing hymns and being very participative in the church. So he is showing and proving to his master that he is very industrious, and he's taken the opportunity to show that. Now, the very opposite is what's going on with Tom Idle. So this plate shows Tom Idle. He's out in the graveyard next to the church, and he's gambling with a bunch of other individuals. And if you look at this picture, my favorite on this are these, like the skeletons and the bones in the front, which kind of give the feeling of this is not a good thing that he's doing. And then you see behind him the gentleman about ready to whack him over the head. He's what they call a beetle, and a beetle is similar to what a security guard for the churches. They kept order and they helped around the church, but he's out there getting ready to hit Tom Idle for not attending church. In the next slide, you're going to see how things are progressing. So you've got Francis Goodchild standing next to his master, and Francis is now, he's no longer on the loom. He has now moved his way up in the business. So he is holding the accounting books. He's got a key to the company, and he's also has a bag of money. So apparently he has really improved and is getting paid more and getting more responsibilities. And you will see there's a pair of gloves on the table, shaking hands. What this is symbolizing, it is symbolizing that the owner, his master, and Francis are now partners and good friends. And again, you just see the detailing in this illustration. It is just beautiful, beautiful work. The next one shows what's going on with Tom Idle. So this particular plate is called Prentice Turned Away and Sent to Sea. So what has happened here is that his master has decided that Tom Idle, he can't teach him. He's not willing to learn. So he has basically fired him and sent him off to sea. In the bottom left corner, there's a little piece of paper floating in the water. And that is representative of the employment agreement being thrown away and Tom being fired. And again, the composition on this, I just love these types of pieces because I personally love black and white and prints, and the detail in this is just phenomenal. The next one, we're going back to Francis Goodchild. And now he has married the master's daughter. And this is showing them in their new house. And in the background, you will see the name West and Goodchild on the sign, and which is below their logo of the lion. So this represents that now Goodchild is partnership with the business. And again, you see how the whole thing is framed out in this very detailed, it looks like brickwork, and you have other symbolic items along the side. Just a beautiful piece of work. On contrast, you now have Tom Idle, who is back out of the sea, back on dry land. He doesn't have two pennies to rub together, and he has taken up with a whore at the time for board and room and basically living in squalor. So you can see how the bed is falling apart. It looks like Tom has been, awakened by the bed, falling apart. So he's in a pretty bad state at this point. Versus Francis Goodchild in the next slide, he has now become sheriff of the town. And here you see him enjoying the fruits of his labor. He is down in the bottom left with his wife, eating at this big banquet, and all these people around him in this grandiose, almost looks like a palace of some type. And again, the illustration work is fantastic. You can just it just pulls you in. The depth that it has, the perspective that it has going back is just great, and all the detail is just, it's incredible. Now in the next one, old Tom Idle, he's really fallen down the pit. So he has gone from a common bandit to an out and out murderer. So what you see here in this slide is you see Tom, who's in the center, and he is rifling through all the different belongings that he and one of his partners have stolen off the man they killed, who to the far right, another guy is dumping him down into a trap door. But unbeknownst to Tom Idle, in the background, you have got the magistrate coming in with some police officers getting ready to arrest him. And you'll see that the whore that he had taken up with is being paid off because she has turned him in. And Tom has no place to run because he's down in the cellar. There's no exit. And again, this detailing, this is now, versus some of his other pieces where it just is just showing a grandiose space. This is a very quaint, tight space. And he's done a fantastic job with the line work on this. Now the next one, now this is some years down the road. Francis and Tom haven't seen each other for years. Francis has taken one road and Tom has taken another road, and now Francis, who is a sheriff, is now having Tom brought before him for murder charges. And Francis, he's got his hand to his head, and he's either completely disgusted with what has happened to Tom, or he's very sad about how Tom has just fallen into such a bad state. And then you've got the magistrate on the left writing up papers, getting ready to send him off to jail. Now, in this is the 11th slide, and this is kind of showing the finale of the book. And what is happening here is that Tom Idle is being brought to execution. He is in a wagon being brought up to be hung. You see him in the top right side of the drawing. Now, despite the subject of this illustration, from just an illustrator standpoint, this is just a beautiful piece of work. The detail is phenomenal. The different people, there's just so many people in there, their facial expressions, the way they're standing, the background, it just has gone from the previous one we saw where it was like in a cellar and really tight. This is just almost like a landscape, and it's just, the perspective goes on and on and on. But the detailing in this is fantastic. It's phenomenal. Now the last plate shows the big contrast between Francis and Tom. Francis has now become mayor of the town. So he's done very well in life. And here you see he's in the carriage. There's his wife. He has all the people around and gathering and cheering him on. And everybody really likes him. He's done fantastic through life. And again, this is almost like a landscape. The size of what's going on in this illustration is just phenomenal. And the detail and all the different people that are in there. It's just a beautiful piece of work. And a neat thing about Williams' artwork is you could actually take an individual piece of art and it tells just a magnificent story in and of itself. But then when he puts them together, and in this particular story, there's 12 separate plates. It tells this fantastic story between what happens to someone who works hard and really tries through life and they will prosper versus someone who is lazy and just ends up in a very bad life and a very bad end. So this is William Hogarth. I highly recommend you take a look at some of his other work. He is a fantastic illustrator and a fantastic oil painter. You will love his work, especially from an illustrator standpoint. Take a look at the detail and the perspective and the way this whole compositions come together is fantastic. So we are going to head on over to name that book. But before we get there, I want to take a couple of moments to get a word from our sponsor. All right, let's take a look at our sponsor of the day, Kimberly Yost. So Kimberly is a licensed independent broker with 4 cornerstones brokerage and will help provide you with peace of mind. She will work with you to protect your loved ones against unexpected situations and develop customized plans for your life insurance, health insurance, or wealth management. Whether it's a children's grow-up policy, reviewing your existing plan, providing you additional coverage, finding retirement solutions, or developing a DFL infinite banking solution to pay off debts, mortgages, or protect your existing savings, 401 assets from market losses, Kimberly can help. So contact her for more information with the link below. Now, let's head on back to our show. All right, let's play Name That Book. I love this part. So you're going to hear 5 minutes of reading from a book. I'm going to pop up a few clues to help you along the way. And then near the end of the reading, you're going to see a little 10-second timer pop up in the bottom right corner. And at the end of the countdown, the title of the book will come up. So good luck, sit back, relax, and let's see if you can name that book.
Third after, the ocean appeared plainly unto us, though we could see no land but what was in the air, and those countries also seemed to be fiery and of a glittering color. The 4th day about noon, the wind gently forbearing, settled us fair and leisurely into the sea, and as soon as we found ourselves upon water, we were surprised with incredible gladness, and our joy was inexpressible. We feasted and made merry with such provision as we had. We cast ourselves into the sea and swam up and down for our disport, for it was a calm. But oftentimes it fouleth out that the change to the better is the beginning of greater evils, for when we had made only 2 days' sail in the water, as soon as the 3rd day appeared, about sun rising, upon a sudden we saw many monstrous fishes and whales, but one above the rest, containing in greatness 1,500 furlongs, which came gaping upon us and troubled the sea round about him, so that he was compassed on every side with froth and foam, showing his teeth afar off, which were longer than any beech trees are with us, all as sharp as needles, and as white as ivory. Then we took, as we thought, our last leaves one of another, and embracing together, expected our ending day. The monster was presently with us, and swallowed us up ship and all. But by chance he caught us not between his chops, for the ship slipped through the void passages down into his entrails. When we were thus got within him, we continued a good while in darkness, and could see nothing till he began to gape, and then we perceived it to be a monstrous whale of a huge breadth and height, big enough to contain a city that would hold 10,000 men. And within we found small fishes and many other creatures chopped in pieces, and the masts of ships and anchors, and bones of men and luggage. In the midst of him was earth and hills, which were raised, as I conjectured, by the settling of the mud which came down his throat. For woods grew upon them, and trees of all sorts, and all manner of herbs, and it looked as if it had been husbanded. The compass of the land was 240 furlongs. There were also to be seen all kind of sea fowl, as gulls, halcyons, and others that had made their nests upon the trees. Then we fell to weeping abundantly, but at the last I roused up my company, and propped up our ship, and struck fire. Then we made ready supper, such as we had, for abundance of all sort of fish lay ready by us, and we had yet water enough left, which we brought out of the morning star. The next morrow we rose to watch when the whale should gape, and then looking out, we could sometimes see mountains, sometimes only the skies, and many times islands, for we found that the fish carried himself with great swiftness to every part of the sea. When we grew weary of this, I took 7 of my company and went into the wood to see what I could find there. And we had not gone above 5 furlongs, but we light upon a temple erected to Neptune, as by the title appeared, and not far off we espied many sepulchres and pillars placed upon them, with a fountain of clear water close unto it. We also heard the barking of a dog, and saw smoke rise afar off, so that we judged there was some dwelling thereabout. Wherefore, making the more haste, we lighted upon an old man and a youth, who were very busy in making a garden, and in conveying water by a channel from the fountain into it, whereupon we were surprised both with joy and fear, and they also were brought into the same taking, and for a long time remained mute. But after some pause the old man said, What are ye, strangers? Any of the sea spirits, or miserable men, like unto us? For we that are men by nature, born and bred in the earth, are now sea dwellers, and swim up and down within the continent of this whale, and know not certainly what to think of ourselves. We are like to men that be dead, and yet believe ourselves to be alive. Whereunto I answered, For our parts, Father, we are men also newly come hither, and swallowed up ship, and all but yesterday. And now come purposely within this wood which is so large and thick. Some good angel, I think, did guide us hither to have the sight of you, and to make us know that we are not the only men confined within this monster. Tell us therefore your fortunes, we beseech you, what you are, and how you came into this place. But he answered, You shall not hear a word from me, nor ask any more questions, until you have taken part of such viands as we are able to afford you. So he took us and brought us into his house.
So, all right, how did you do? Did you name that book? I know it was a bit of a difficult one. So this book is called The True Story, also known as True History. It is an ancient Greek story written in the 2nd century AD by Syrian author Lucian of Samosata. The novel is a satire of mythical events in one of Lucian's best known works. So many will argue it is the earliest known work of fiction to include travel to outer space, alien life forms, and interplanetary warfare. It has been described as the first known writing of science fiction. However, the work does not fit into typical literary genres. Its characters have been interpreted as belonging to science fiction, fantasy, satire, or parody, and have been a subject of scholarly debate. So what is the story about? So the story begins with Lucian and his companions embarking on a voyage, and they head out beyond the Pillars of Hercules. During their journey, they will encounter numerous fantastic and absurd adventures. They are carried to the moon by a whirlwind, where they find civilizations on the lunar surface and become embroiled in this war between the sun and the moon. They encounter gigantic sea creatures. They encounter one so large that it contains an entire ocean and civilization. They travel to the Isle of the Blessed, where they meet legendary heroes like Achilles and philosophers like Socrates. They have an underwater adventure. They dive into the depths of the ocean and discover underwater cities and strange marine creatures. But the biggest satirical portion of the story is that Lucian had indicated that there'd be more adventures and upcoming stories. But there were never any additional stories, so everybody was left hanging. So that is the story of The True History or True Story. It's a neat reading, and if you are sci-fi or a fantasy lover, it is definitely worth owning, especially considered it is known as one of the first, or if not the first, science fiction story. All right, so let's head on over to our next segment, some self-publishing tips. But before we get there, we're going to do our book plug of the day. All right, so our book plug of the day is from no other than yours truly. My 3-book series, The Ordained. And we are going to take a look at number one, book number one, The Human Experiment. So this is a great young reader book. It is beautifully printed. It's got great full color illustrations in it, and it's a fun little story. So what is the story about? So once the pride of the galactic university, humans held the potential to surpass all other species in growth and prosperity. However, their innate behavior towards destruction, driven by greed, envy, and intolerance, brought about their demise. It is now up to goddess Sage Athelia to unravel the mysteries that define a harmonious race. Now I want to roll the trailer to the story, so sit back and relax.
The Human Experiment, Book 1 of The Ordained, written by David T. Plante.
Once the pride of the galactic university, humans held the potential to surpass all other species in growth and prosperity. However, their innate behavior towards destruction, driven by greed, envy, and intolerance, brought about their demise. It is now up to goddess Sage Althea to unravel the mysteries that define a harmonious race. Travel the stars with Sage Althea and her companion Veda as they meet strange and wonderful worlds. Will they find the answers they seek to rebuild the human race? Climb aboard the Starship Elpis for an exciting adventure and find out.
Well, I hope you enjoyed the trailer. The books are available on Amazon. You can also check out my website. It has a link to all the books. So check them out. They are a great gift, and I'm sure you will enjoy them. Now, on to our next segment, some self-publishing tips. All right, welcome to the self-publishing section. Today we're going to take an overall look at everything, and then as we progress with our shows, we're going to dive deeper into each area. So the first question is, why self-publish? Well, the biggest thing is creative freedom. So you get to choose everything. You get to choose your fonts, you get to choose your book layouts, your cover artwork. You get to choose who you work with, whether you want to do your illustrations or whether you want to have somebody else do your illustrations. All the creative work is up to you. The second biggie is that it is easy to get to the market. It is fast. So once you have finished your book and you got it all put together, as soon as you upload it, you can literally publish it. Unlike traditional publishers where it can take literally years to get published, and that's if you're lucky enough for them to pick you, self-publishing, you can get it to market as soon as you finish the book. Then the next big item is ownership. You own your rights to your book and to your work. Nobody else. It is all yours. And that's a biggie. That's a big one for me. Then also niche marketing. You have a better available outlets to you to market to different niches. You choose where you want to market. The next thing is, where do we go to do self-publishing? Well, there's a few main self-publishers. The first one is Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing, or called KDP, and that's who I use. They're very easy to work with. The software and interface, super easy. And of course you are on Amazon immediately, and so you have exposure to millions and millions of people. But there's also some other ones that you can use for self-publishing, and one is Reedsy. So Reedsy offers a comprehensive service that includes the designing and marketing, but it also provides a platform to connect with professionals. So if you want to talk with somebody who's a professional author, this is a good option for you. Then you have Baby Book. Baby Book provides a range of services from book printing and ebook publishing, but it also includes audiobook. An auto book is a great addition to your printed books and your ebooks. Then you have draft to digital. Draft to digital, this service allows you to distribute ebooks to multiple retailers. So that's including Amazon, Apple, Barnes & Noble. And it's basically consolidated to one platform that you can market to multiple platforms. Then you have Lulu. And then Lulu offers a print-on-demand service for both books and other printed projects. And they also provide a variety of different packages to suit different budgets. But one thing I also want to indicate about the Amazon Kindle Direct is they are also print on demand, which is something I really like about the process. You don't have to buy a whole bunch of books. If somebody orders it on Amazon, they print it and they ship it. And then of course you can also order what are called author copies. So all you're paying for are the printing costs and the shipping costs. So if you want to do shows, or you want to provide gifts, or if you have some sort of arrangement with some local retailers, you can mark them up yourself. So what I want to take a look at, if you're looking at doing a book, I guess the first thing you've got to think about is what type of book you're going to do. So there are different types of formats, and this is not an extensive list. This is just a couple of the main types of books. So the first one is an anthology. So an anthology is a collection of short stories, essays, poems, often by different authors, and they're all consolidated into one book. A companion book, that's a book that provides additional information or background to an existing book. So let's say you write a book where you have developed a lot of worlds, you've developed a lot of characters, and you want to provide your readers with some background on all these characters and all these locations. That's called a companion book. And then a duology is a 2-series book. It's the same thing as a trilogy, but you only have 2 books. An epic is, well, we've always heard of epics. It's a big story. It's an epic story, very involved, very detailed type of work. Then you've got your graphic novels. Graphic novels, and that is similar to what our illustrator William did with his plates. So the graphic novels really tell a story through pictures. There's some narrative in it, but the majority of it are pictures. It's similar to a comic book, but a little bit more extensive. And then you have novels. Novels are typically standalone books. They are a story within itself. It's not connected to additional books. And that's a novel. Now, omnibus is a collection of several books or stories by the same author within a series. So it's if you've got like a trilogy and you want to kind of remarket it, you can combine it into one book, and that would be called an omnibus. And it's a good way to kind of repackage books that you have already written. Then you have series. And of course, series is, we all know what a series is. It's just like a television show series, but it's a book series where you have stories that come out on a consistent basis, whether it's once a month, once a quarter, or whatever it may be. And then short stories. Now, short stories are my favorite. That's what I like to write. And short stories, they typically are around 20,000 words, and I think they are great for young readers. It's a nice book that you can engage a young reader into and kind of get them interested and involved with reading, and then basically graduate into more extensive books. And then of course you've got your trilogy, and everybody knows what a trilogy is. That is 3 books. And what is the most famous trilogy? That's right, Lord of the Rings. So let's talk a little bit about book genres. Now, there are a ton of book genres, and these are just kind of some of the main genres. So the first one, fantasy. In fantasies, magical worlds, mythical creatures, and epic adventures. You have science fiction, one of my favorites. That's futuristic technology, space exploration, and alternative realities. It also usually deals a lot with technology. You have mysteries. They are crime solving and suspenseful plots. Thrillers, you know what thrillers are? High stakes, fast paced action. Of course, you have your romance, love stories, emotional connections, historical fiction. Those are stories that take place in a particular time period. They're not true stories, but the time period is something that we can relate to. Biography and autobiography. These are life stories of real people, their experiences. And I'll tell you, self-publishing is great for this type of book. So let's say you want to write a book to talk about your family history that you want to share with your kids and your grandkids and your brothers and sisters. This is a perfect way of doing it. You can write your biography, autobiography, and you can self-publish it. Then, of course, graphic novels and comics. We talked about those already. Poetry. We know what poetry is. I love poetry. Then we have young adults, and that's one of my markets I like to focus on with the short stories. Young markets are coming to age type stories, teenage heroes, and related themes. Something I feel pretty strong about is you write young adult stories, and it's a good way to try to get our young kids involved with reading and open up a whole new world for them. And then, of course, you have children's books, which are for the younger kids, and that is also a great way to get the young generation involved with reading. So let's talk real quick about book development and overview. So just a quick outline on how you want to think about putting your book together when you're deciding that you want to write a book. So the first thing you need to do is write it. So you put your story together, you write it and you edit it, and then you want to format your book. And formatting, very important. This is how your book's going to look. And this is where you can kind of get creative. Let's say in the header you put just like a little icon or something to kind of just pop and just kind of make your book a little more unique. But formatting, we're going to go over lots of things about formatting, but that's a very important part of book design and development. Then you've got illustrations. Now, illustrations, there's lots of different ways to go about illustrating. So if you're an artist and you're writing a book, you can do your own illustrations. Or you can go the traditional route and team up with an illustrator. And that's a great way, because if let's say even if you are an artist and you can draw and you can do your illustrations, maybe you want a whole different look. That's not the type of thing you do. Maybe you want a different look that another illustrator can provide you. And then there's always the AI. AI is becoming very big, is becoming more and more advanced, and you can use AI to generate a lot of illustrations for your books. Now, then we go to choosing a publishing platform that we talked about earlier, and we'll dig deeper into that. And then you set your pricing, and then you set your royalties, and the different platforms have different royalty structures. And then once that's set, you hit the market, you publish it, and then you start promoting. So that is the general overview of book development. So later on in our series, we're going to start diving deeper into each one of these, but I thought this would be a good starting point. And whether you are just starting out or whether you are a professional, it's all the same process. But for those who are just starting out, if you've got a story, there's no reason you can't tell it. Just start thinking about it, thinking about what we just talked about, and I'm going to help you and show you how to publish it. So that's our show for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I look forward to seeing you again. And remember to always keep drawing, keep reading, and keep writing. And have a great evening.
Enjoy.